The descent. The world of sunlight is gone. You aren't a normal diver anymore. Normal divers go down for an hour and come back up. If you did that at 300 meters, you'd die instantly. Your journey starts in a steel cylinder on the deck of a massive ship. They call it the tin can. The heavy hatch swings shut and locks with a metallic thud that echoes in your chest. This 6-foot wide tube is your home for the next 28 days. The air starts to hiss. Technicians are pumping in a synthetic gas mixture to match the crushing pressure of the seafloor. As the pressure rises, your ears pop violently, over and over. The air gets thick and heavy. It feels like you're breathing soup because the gas is becoming physically viscous. Then your voice starts to change. You try to say, "I'm ready," but it sounds like a cartoon character. The helium in the air is so light, it shifts your voice to a high-pitched squeak. You look at your partner, a veteran with 20 years of experience. He looks like a warrior, but when he speaks, he sounds like Mickey Mouse. You want to laugh, but the weight of the situation stops you. For the next month, no one outside this tank will understand a word you say. You've surrendered your life to the pressure. Your tissues are now fully saturated with helium. You are officially a creature of the deep. The tin can life. Living in saturation is like living on a space station, but more claustrophobic. The space is tiny. 3 men living in a tube no bigger than a hallway. It is hot, constantly. Helium steals your body heat 6 times faster than normal air. The room is kept at a sweltering 92 degrees Fahrenheit just to keep you from shivering. You're always sweating, and the humidity is nearly 100%. This heat and moisture create a playground for bacteria. In this tin can, a tiny scratch can turn into a rotting infection in hours. If you don't scrub yourself with medical-grade antibacterial soap, your skin will literally begin to break down. Ear infections are so common, they are a guarantee. Every morning, you pour alcohol drops into your ears to keep the fungus at bay. Everything you need comes through a small airlock called the supply lock. Your laundry goes out, and clean clothes come in. But the most important thing that comes through is the fuel. Your body is working overtime just to stay alive under the pressure. You need to eat 5,000 calories every single day. That's a mountain of food, but you'll never taste it. The high pressure dulls your taste buds and crushes your sense of smell. Steak tastes like wet cardboard. Coffee tastes like hot water, and you have to be careful what you eat. Foods that cause even a little bit of gas, like beans, are forbidden. At this pressure, a trapped gas bubble in your gut feels like being stabbed from the inside. You eat bland, high-calorie mush just to keep your heart beating. You're not a person anymore. You're a biological machine. The commute. When it's time to work, you don't walk outside. You crawl into the diving bell, a heavy sphere attached to your chamber. The bell detaches and begins its slow drop through the moon pool into the dark ocean. The light from the surface fades from blue to gray, then to pitch black. When the bell hits the seafloor, the bottom hatch opens. The water doesn't flood in because the internal air pressure pushes it down. You step out of the hatch and drop into the abyss. You are connected to the bell by a thick umbilical cord. This cord is your only connection to life. It pumps your breathing gas, provides your radio link, and most importantly, it pumps hot water. The water at these depths is near freezing. Without that hot water constantly flooding your suit, you'd be dead from hypothermia in minutes. The work is brutal. You're using massive hydraulic wrenches to tighten bolts on oil pipelines. Everything is heavy. Everything is dangerous. Sometimes the silt kicks up and you're in blackout conditions. You can't see your own hands, so you have to weld and build by touch alone. You work for 8 hours in the freezing dark, listening to the sound of your own raspy breathing. Then you crawl back into the bell for the ride up. But you aren't going up to the surface, just back to the tin can, the invisible poison. At these depths, the very air that keeps you alive is trying to kill you. Oxygen is a neurotoxin at high pressure. If the technicians get the mix wrong by even 1%, you'll have a seizure and drown in your helmet. Then there's HPNS, high pressure nervous syndrome. The helium interferes with your nerve signals. Your hands begin to shake uncontrollably. You feel dizzy, nauseous, and you see flashes of light in your vision. It feels like your brain is short-circuiting. And then there is the monster in the room, explosive decompression. Every diver knows the story of the Byford dolphin. In 1983, a single lever was pulled by mistake. The pressure inside the chamber dropped from 9 atmospheres to 1 in a fraction of a second. The air inside the diver's blood turned into massive bubbles instantly. It wasn't a death. It was an explosion from the inside out. Their bodies were fragmented by the physics of the expanding air. You try not to think about that lever. You trust the men on the surface with your life every second you're inside. If they fail, you don't just die, you disappear. The long walk home. After 28 days, your contract is finished. You're ready to see your family, but you're still a prisoner. You have to decompress. The gas in your blood needs to be let out slowly, like opening a soda bottle very, very carefully. If you go too fast, the bubbles will tear your joints apart. So you sit. For 5 days, you're not working anymore, which sounds nice, but it's the hardest part. The aggravation sets in. The sound of your crewmate breathing makes you want to hit him. The smell of the chamber, which you've lived in for a month, becomes unbearable. The walls feel like they're closing in because physically they are. Finally, the gauge hits 0. The hatch opens and you step out into the fresh air. The first thing you notice is the smell of the ocean breeze. The second thing you notice is that you can't stand up straight. You are systemically exhausted. Your brain is foggy. They call it post-sat fatigue. You feel like a ghost walking through a world that's moving too fast. The permanent price. You go home with a massive paycheck, maybe $30,000 for the month. But the ocean keeps some of what it took from you. Years later, your joints start to ache. It's bone death, dysbaric osteonecrosis. The pressure restricted blood flow to your hips and shoulders so much that the bone tissue began to die. You might lose your hearing. 50% of your colleagues already have. The high-pressure gas and constant noise of the machinery have destroyed your inner ear. You find it hard to concentrate on conversations. The silent bubbles in your blood may have left tiny scars on your brain. You sit on the beach and look at the waves. Tourists see beauty. You see the weight of the water. You remember the dark. You remember the tin can. You're wealthy now, but you know the truth. You didn't just work at the bottom of the sea. You left a piece of your soul down there, in the pressure, in the silence, where humans were never meant to go.